Hi, this is Ling Wu from businesssoulwork.com. And today in this blab, I have Jen Turrell with me, who is going to talk to us about cutting junk spending and clearing money clutter for the holiday season. And this is particularly important, I think, not only for as a person from a personal finance perspective, but also, for my listener, who a lot of you guys are solopreneurs and, on business on your own. You just have to get your ducks in a row this time of the year to enter the 2016, sort of get things sorted and tie up loose ends and all the good stuff. And we all know that, loose ends in our finances is a sort of an energy drain, and it is really just like stress humming in the back of our mind if we don't get it sorted. So Jen, I would love for you to introduce yourself to our viewers and then take it away.
Sure. My name's Jen Turrell, and I'm a financial personal trainer is what I've decided to call myself, because I think of what I do with people as being similar to what the personal trainer at the gym does. I'm not the doctor. You still have to go to your CPA and file your taxes and everything. But I work with people one-on-one on their goals and setting up systems to reach their goals, kind of like the personal trainer sets up your exercise regimen and measures you and weighs you along the way to make sure you're making progress towards those goals. I also run a couple of different businesses. My husband and I run our family's ranch here in Arizona. So we are ranchers. And then we also have a music label. And I've done a lot of work with autism moms as well. I had a company called Able Interventions for a while, which I've now stepped away from, but I've done a lot of work with helping autism moms both set up their intervention programs for their kids and doing the special needs finance stuff. So that's what I do. And one of the reasons that I like looking at clearing up your clutter and your junk before the holidays is because the end of year comes in the middle of the holidays, in between Christmas and New Year's. And who wants to be doing all of their end of year tax stuff and everything after Christmas and right before New Year's, right? So if we get started now in end of October, I feel like October is really the perfect time to start wrapping up your end of year plans. Of course, you'll have to update it at the end of the year. But if you do the bulk of it now, it's so much easier come tax time.
Yeah, absolutely. So from both a personal finance and business finance perspective, can you speak to what are the top activities we can do right now to get everything, sort of all the ducks in a row, so that when it comes tax time, we're not pulling our hair out?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the top thing is having some kind of accounting program that you use and having an accountant to take that to. If you also have a bookkeeper, making sure that everything lines up with all of you between what your bookkeeper uses, that kind of program, that it generates the reports that your CPA wants. Also making sure everything's in there and that you have an idea of what your expenditures have been, what your deductions will be. If you haven't done it yet, I think October is a great time to sit down and look through, the first 3 quarters of the year. Hopefully you've been paying your quarterly taxes, so you've done some amount going through the year as a solopreneur or an entrepreneur. If not, I'd say right now is the best time to catch up. So, look at sort of quarterly profit loss, look at what you can deduct from each year, your expenses, and that'll help you anticipate what your year-end tax situation will be. And of course, talk to your CPA. I talk to my CPA every quarter. We go through, because I don't like to base my quarterly estimated solely on last year's.
That makes sense.
Because I do new things each year, so my numbers change a fair bit. And I know a few people that I've talked to. I remember listening to Amanda Steinberg do an interview where she talked about the year her company really massively grew, and she accidentally ended up with a $90,000 tax bill that she couldn't pay at the end of the year because she thought they'd made adjustments. She thought she talked to her CPA. Somehow there was a miscommunication. She wasn't in close communication with them all year. And so they had tons of money coming in, but they had to then build out and grow to be able to accommodate all the new business. And so they spent the money that should have been set aside for taxes. And it took her several years then to make payments and pay off from the fantastic year. So, when you have a fantastic year and you have all this growth, you want to be able to just appreciate it and celebrate it, set aside the taxes, and not have that panic moment at the end of the year when, your June 15th tax bill or your April tax bill is massively different than you expected it
And
to be.
I would say note to self is, just put that's what I do, is that I put a reminder note on my calendar every quarter, like end of every quarter. Send a note to my CPA and say, okay, what is my estimate situation? Because like you said, we do different things and things change. So it's much better to just sort of communicate with your CPA and say, how much am I sending in the estimate? And, it took her like no time to bang out that little slip that I need. So I think, and also, if you don't, well, I realized, I do have a couple of slow quarters once in a while. So if that quarter is slow, then you don't have to pay taxes that you don't need to pay, and tying up the cash flow.
You don't want to overpay. I always try to not overpay by much, if any. Often from my year end, my January 15th payment, we go ahead because we anticipate that. We figure out my year. I just had my my October tax meeting with my accountant. So generally what I do is I don't do it April 1st, but for the other quarters, I do it the 1st of the month, and then the tax estimate is due on the 15th. So I talk to him the 1st of the month, make sure we're in line. He sends me the little coupon that I send off. That works. I don't do it for April because he's so slammed with everyone else's taxes, and he's doing my actual taxes right now.
Exactly. And that's another thing, is being considerate to your bookkeeper and CPA. They don't slam them at tax season on things that they don't need to worry about, and they would appreciate it and treat you better for the rest of the year.
I also think they really appreciate having those quarterly check-ins. I mean, for me, it's usually just a phone call. I actually go in and talk to them in October, because that's when we're doing my final year-end planning. And I want to make sure we have all the paperwork, see what's changed. Because sometimes year to year we have some pretty big changes, because we have multiple businesses and we have kids with special needs. And, so we kind of have a very complicated situation. So October is when I sit down with them and we go over everything. And I try to give them everything I possibly can then. And then for the January 15th, I try to turn everything in January for the end of the year. That way, I may bring a few more things to him in March, the deadline for him getting my tax stuff to him for April 15th. But for the most part, he knows my whole situation by the end of the year. October is really when we figure it out. So I think he appreciates that, because I'm one of his easy clients. It's not like I dump everything on him, March 15th and say, you have 1 month to get it ready for me. I think he doesn't even accept stuff after March 2nd now. That's like his deadline for everyone to get things into him, which I think is really smart too. Like, he builds in that buffer time for himself.
It's the boundary.
Yeah.
So awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing this, and also, what you do personally, because I think it's one thing to say, hey, call your CPA, and that's one thing to really hear someone what you exactly do. That is sort of, because I could call my CPA and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So this is the first action item for October. We're coming up in November, but for this time of the year before holiday hits, is to actually contact your CPA and bookkeeper to get everything lined up and sorted.
And something else you can find out from doing that is get an estimate of what your tax liability is going to be. And then you can do things like expense things out if you need to. So like for us with our ranch, wintertime we buy a lot of feed. So depending on what our tax liability is, we might buy it all the way through for April if we want to get that deduction off of our income. But if we've had less income and we know that we're anticipating a spring sale, we'll maybe buy less so that we can get more of the deduction off of next year's. It depends on our numbers, how many we've sold, what cattle prices are. So we kind of look at all those things and decide, is right now, the end of the year, the time to expense it all out to get those tax deductions, or would we rather have them in the new year? So depending on what kind of business you have and what kind of expenses and overhead you can possibly do. For a lot of solopreneurs, it's more things like, I want to upgrade my computer. Should I do it before December or after? Do I want that tax deduction now? Or am I launching a huge program and I want to get every possible tax deduction in the new year? So I'll wait to stock up on office supplies, ink, and buy a new programmer, get a new coach or something like that. You can kind of time those things out based on how it affects your tax.
Yeah, totally. And so this will be a good time to actually see how much deduction you want to put into this tax year, and stock up, get it done.
Yeah. And when I was, when we first made the name for this, thinking about junk spending.
Yeah, what's junk spending?
So I was thinking mainly in terms of personal spending, but it does apply to your business too. So for me, junk spending, I made some little notes here. For me, it's the empty calories of life. It is the stuff that does not nourish you in mind, body, spirit, or pocketbook. I mean, if you're a solopreneur, there are expenses that will help you earn more money. Having a website, having a shopping cart, having a mailing list, those are expenses that allow you to bring in income. So those are not junk spending at all. But the ones that don't nourish you in any way, don't bring in income, and also do not make you truly happy or give you pleasure. If something gives you true pleasure, that's not junk at all. Like, a great vacation, that's good spending. The junk spending are the little impulse buys, the little purchases, the things, subscriptions you sign up for and then never even use, the courses you've bought or the monthly memberships. My gym membership it wobbles between junk and not junk, because the times I've actually hired a personal trainer or joined a class, I go. If I don't have it scheduled, I don't go. So, that's those months that I haven't gone, that's been junk spending, because it's just something that comes out without me getting any benefit out of it.
And I think it is, for a lot of, solopreneurs and running your own businesses, I think it helps a lot to look at the recurring payments in terms of, with the through the lens of junk spending. A lot of times we sign up for things, that fear of missing out. You got to get the membership fees going up, yada, yada, yada. And then you don't use the program or you don't use the tool. But you sign up because it sounds like, everybody and her Aunt Betty is getting that.
Yeah. And sometimes it's hard to know until you get it. Like, I've been doing this myself right now. So I was looking at things that I have on my phone. Like, a lot of things, there's a free trial. And then once you get past the free trial, or there's some kind of upgrade in it. So I was looking at like Focus at Will. I used Focus at Will because I do feel like having some nice little melodies kind of helps me focus. I use it with my Pomodoro app to focus and work. But I did at one point upgrade, and then I was like, am I using this enough for the upgrade? Do I really need these different sounds? I could probably just listen to those free sounds over and over. Yeah. I purchased stuff because I thought I was supposed to be professional. With the free version or option wouldn't work as well. I was just reading the comments here. Yeah, I had to cancel memberships. Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot too, because and sometimes I join memberships because they're very low priced, and I want to support people who I like in groups and who I'm working with. Yeah. But then I do have to look at eventually, like, have I gone into that group? Have I used it? Am I really getting the value out of it? And is the material there valuable for me? And for some groups, it's that your ICA is in there. You want to be in there to make contact. So like the B School group, are you in B Schooling?
No, I am not.
Okay. Well, that's when I joined it in 2012. I did not have a website yet. So like going through the program at the time, I learned a lot, but I couldn't implement it because I didn't have a website for the business I was doing. Within the next year, I used that information to build a website for a record label, because we'd always had all these different little scattered websites. Like for this band over here, we had a band camp over here. We had we used to have MySpaces, right, for the different bands.
I remember that.
So I was like, there's nowhere where my husband and I we've both been in a bunch of different bands, and we've owned a couple different labels over the years. So I used B School to eventually pull it all together. But the truth is, what I've gotten more out of that than the information is the community. Like, I've met so many amazing people in there, and I've decided that, I've been in there since 2012. That's 3 years now. The price of admission was worth access to all the people that I've met in there, because I've made fantastic connections, done things with people. It's been awesome. So the information was good too, but I in no way feel that wasn't worth it. But then there are all these other things that come up, and we're like, oh, I might want to do that someday. It's the just in case buying instead of just in time buying. Like,
oh, I like that. I think that's important to distinguish.
Yeah, that was, I read some book about Toyota. The car maker revolution was the difference between American car makers and Toyota at the time, was they did just-in-time delivery and inventory, whereas American car dealers did just in case. So they would have these massive amounts of inventory, overbuy, have to store it, have to maintain it, have to replace it if it got rusted out or ruined. Yep. Whereas Toyota things would arrive just the moment they needed to arrive. So there wasn't all of the storage and inventory situation. And I think that's the same with our brains. sometimes we're like, oh, someday I want to build a course. I'm not ready yet, but I'll buy this course on building courses right now for $2,000, and hopefully I'll use it next year.
One day.
When the truth is, next year there'll be a course on building courses. You could probably take the same course next year. It might be updated for new information, and I'm guilty of this too. I have plenty of times where I've been like, oh, wow, that's probably exactly what I need.
Yeah, I'm gonna need that 2 years from now.
Yeah, or things like upgrading to Entreport or Infusionsoft before you're ready. I've been tempted a few times, but the truth is my list is not the size that it makes sense, and I don't have the complexity of products to track.
Yeah.
Like, I love what it sounds like to use Entreport or Infusionsoft.
Yeah.
But based on the income I get from my list, it won't make sense right now. So I've held off.
Yeah, I think it's really not trying to, do the Me Too thing. Oh, this big, has, this fancy email program with the shopping cart and all that, and I need to have that to look professional.
Yeah. Who cares? PayPal buttons are just fine.
Exactly. And the truth is, it's just I know Infusionsoft Drive, for example, I'm not, against or for one provider or the other, but I know that a lot of these more complex programs needs, you just need to hire someone to do every single little thing. And that actually, it trickles and it piles up and it's like, oh my God, I'm spending $200 each month to get someone just to wrangle this email program for me. Is it worth it?
Yeah. And there hopefully for most people, there'll come a point where it will be. Mm-hmm. But, you have to get to that tipping point first and be like, it's costing me money to deal with the customer service and to not have this. And it's costing me enough that it's worth it to buy it, rather than being like, I'll upgrade now in anticipation of sales coming in.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you have 500 people on your list, you'll be better off building your list first, focusing the energy on that, instead of trying to set up 5 different funnels to, I don't know, to send 20 people through each funnel. Yeah. Anyway, I do want to circle back on, I know we throw a lot out right now, so let's just lay it out to say, okay, what can people do to reduce, just a few action steps to help people reduce junk spending in this sort of technology tools and recurring programs type of department.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think one of the best ways to harvest the low-hanging fruit is to look at your credit card and your iTunes or whatever your in-app purchase. If you're not Apple, I'm Apple, so to me it's iTunes. I don't know what it is for Android and Samsung, but look at the things that are super easy to click and buy. Mm-hmm. Amazon one-click too. So one thing I say is if you have your PayPal and your credit card and all those things saved on your computer, disable the automatic login. Yeah. Take away the thing that so you actually have to type in your password. Yeah. I changed my password. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but make it something that makes you either think of value or no junk. I mean, don't make it no junk. That's too simple. But something that you type in so that you'll have this moment. It puts a barrier up. You have to log into PayPal. You don't automatically get logged in anymore. So take off password box or take out of your keychain actively. You can even do it just by changing your password. And then when it says update password, say no. So you have to log in. So that's good for online buying. Also for Amazon, disable one-click buying. Yeah. Because if there's that barrier and you have to log into Amazon and the password is something like, do you really need this? You don't have to, again, don't make it that, but, make it something that makes you stop and think for a second. Make it a little barrier buying so that you really think about, am I really going to get joy out of this? Or is this just, am I bored? Another thing is go through your credit card statement and look at the little things that recur, because sometimes we totally forget. Do you have cable and Netflix? Could you just do Netflix? Could you just do cable? Could you cut one of those services out? Do you have anything that's set on, automatic renewal or automatic repay every month that you forgot about? Even if it's just $5, if you left it on there for 10 years at $5 a month, that's really going to add up. That's a lot of money.
Yeah,
it adds
up. And I think that's a lot with a lot of technology tools and programs, sort of the membership programs that a lot of sort of entrepreneurs sign up for, or they say, okay, I'll just pay for it, no problem, $10 a month, I'll just keep it even though I'm not using it.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. You have 3 of these $10 a month thing, and over the course of a year, 30 times 12, you're basically spending $360 for no reason.
Mm-hmm. Car payment, like it could add up to, or taking off your debt.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if you are really using it and really getting the value out of it, that's one thing. Or if it really brings you lots of pleasure, maybe Netflix gives you your binge watching of Battlestar Galactica or something, no problem. But if it's something that doesn't really give you pleasure, and a lot of times how I know when I've junk spent is it's this sort of bloated, empty feeling. Like when you eat junk food afterwards, like maybe it tasted good in the moment and you got some kind of like, momentary
You get the high and then
flush. Yeah, a momentary like, ooh, I did something. But then afterwards you feel, that greasy feeling around your mouth and that kind of bloated feeling in your stomach. I kind of get that in other ways too. Of course, it's not quite greasy, but I'll be like, oh, did I really need that? Should I have bought that? I don't know. So I think anytime you have that feeling, take note.
Mm-hmm.
Try to remember it next time. And another tool that I like to use is Amazon wish list instead of one click. Instead of one clicking it, put it in your wish list. And it will give your family and friends presents to buy for your birthday and Christmas. Like my husband, he's so hard to buy for.
Yeah.
He's a record collector. So we never know which like rare 70s punk record or whatever he's looking for, or some compilation or some biography by some musician. So I've been trying to get him to put them in the wish list instead. Because I was like, for one thing, it's not like you won't ever get it. If it's something you really want, put it in there. And then it gives us things to buy you for presents because we don't know what new punk, if we're not in that world, it's hard to buy for collectors because they're so particular. You can't just go buy any record for a collector. So there's that. And then a Pinterest board is one other thing that I think is great. So if you're not on Amazon and there are things you want to buy and it's not on your list, not in your budget this month, put it on the Pinterest board. You can make it private if you don't want people to see it, but you can keep it there. And then after all your bills have paid, after, if you have some money left over, you can go and be like, is this what I want to spend it on? Or, if you have like 5 different things and one's a handbag and you're like, do I want the handbag this month or do I want that vacation 3 months from now? Should I add on dolphin swimming instead of buying a $500 handbag? You know what I mean? Like you can make those choices more easily if you see the visuals in there.
And you can also integrate it into, some people like to do a reward system when they accomplish tasks in their business. So instead of, impulse buy and then say, oh my God, what have I done? You can put it aside as a reward so that when you actually sort of stretch yourself or do something awesome in your business, you have something to reward yourself with that is meaningful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Because sometimes if we just buy what we want all the time, it doesn't feel like a reward when we finish something.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And I would say the same thing goes for, all the tools and programs that sort of we all sign up for, right? I like to say, especially for technology tool, when you do the audit, is kind of instead of saying, oh, how do I? A lot of people is letting the tools lead how they design their customer, consumer, clients interaction.
Yeah,
so it's because the tool is here. They squeeze people through that particular experience.
I've never thought of that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so one thing I like to do when I help my clients sort of audit their tools, the technology tools particularly, is, okay, you're going to do this thing. So what is your ideal user experience?
And
how do you want your potential clients or customer experience this program or this sign up process, right? And then you plug the tools in, and then the tools that don't fit, they don't fit. So you don't feel like you're missing out or you're not, you're a loser because you're not spending money on a certain thing. But you're using how you want to present yourself and how you want to interact with, with your market, and use that as the filter to find the tools that is right. And then if you have to purchase another tool, you know exactly why you're doing that. And there's no like, oh my God, I feel, stupid, that kind of thing 5 months down the road.
I love that, Ling. That is Brilliant. And I have not done that. That is making me want to think about that is, because I need a mailing list. I signed up for MailChimp because it was free at first, and then I wanted autoresponder, so I upgraded. But, like I said, part of me kind of wants something like Entreport or one of these like fancy things that will kind of nurture people based on what they interact with first. But I'm like, oh, I'm not up to that yet. But you're right. If I think about wanting that, then I can find the perfect tool eventually when I'm ready for it. That's interesting. And I have to admit, I have a bit of an issue with trying new things. Like, so especially because I talk to people about finance, I try almost every new finance app I possibly can. Like this year it got a little crazy because I wanted to try both Zero and Wave. Because for our business, it's pretty complex between our branch and our record label with lots of inventory, different types of inventory that have to be tracked in different ways. Like, the ranch with the cattle, it's mainly just sales, but with the records, there are returns and all kinds of things happen. So we use QuickBooks with our accountant. But a lot of the people I work with really don't need something quite that robust. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try out Wave. Okay, I'm going to try out Zero. And inputting all of my stuff into these different programs and then seeing how they work, I started going a little crazy. But I also love trying like Acorns and Betterments and Digit. And, I try out all these different savings and investing platforms, which does make my own portfolio look pretty scattered. I mean, I don't put a ton into any new thing. But I want to put my money where my mouth is. And if I'm going to recommend something to someone, I want to have tried it and tell them about my experience first. If I can't do that, I send them to someone like Danetha Doe, who I love, who's in my Mastering Money Matters group. She's an accountant. Well, she has been an accountant, and she's a business consultant for finances, and she's fabulous. So if I don't know something, I often send them to her. Or if it's legal stuff, I have a few people I send them to because I'm like, I can't recommend without having tried it myself. Trying everything yourself is exhausting too.
Oh, awesome. So I think we cover, so I'm just trying to make sure that we are on time and on track. So far we cover a couple of things. Number one is really, sort of sit down together with your CPA and bookkeeper and start getting all your numbers in order. And one particular thing is like just see what deduction you have for this year and stock up.
And check out, anticipate what your end of year tax liability will be, both in terms of your January 15th payment. And then if you anticipate owing anything by April 15th, I kind of try to figure out as much as I can, anticipate my first quarter at the end of the year too, because then that helps me make those decisions about stocking up and spending. Expensing it out or not. Yeah.
And then the second one is really go through your junk spending. So that I think it's just good once in a while to sort of do a kind of cleaning to your spending. And we talk about a few things that you can go through to make sure that you're spending money on the things that is going to be meaningful for you. So I want to talk to you a little bit about money clutter.
Okay.
What other money clutter is there that we can sort of help, clean up this time of the year? Paperwork.
Yay! At the end of the year, I actually always have a shred party where I get out my shredder, I oil it up, make sure it's all ready, and then I shred what I don't need from the end of the year. And people have asked me at different times about different particulars of what can and can't be shredded. I found a fantastic Life Hacker article, which I wish I had just pulled up here. So I put, it's like, what can you shred, Life Hacker, something like that. You like that, Shauna? A shred party? Yeah, I love having a shred party. And I go through all my files. So basically, I mean, everyone knows you have to keep your taxes for 7 years, the receipts and the actual, I actually keep the returns themselves. I keep my returns forever. I probably don't need to, but once I take all the supporting materials out and shred that after 7 years, I just go ahead and keep the returns. Because they're, it's a little envelope. Whatever, just in case. I know I probably don't need to at this point, but other than that, I keep things like anything related to my mortgage, my house, my loans, any loans I still have, any titles you have to anything, obviously you keep all of that stuff. But the actual like monthly payment slips for things, your pay stubs, I tend to keep 2 pay stubs just in case, because like right now we're buying an investment property and I haven't needed pay stubs for anything in ages, and they come from our family business anyways, but in getting the loan, the mortgage for the investment property, they did ask for the last 2 pay stubs for me and my husband. So I was like, oh, I'm glad I'm keeping my pay stubs. But you can shred the year's pay stubs, shred the monthly bills, as long as everything comes through. You can even shred credit card bills that aren't supporting materials for your taxes. If they're supporting materials for your taxes, keep them. Anything to do with your taxes, keep that. Anything to do with ongoing loans, property, student payments, keep that. But tons of things that I just file all year long can get shredded. It's so much fun to actually go through the whole file. Like I have my 2 filing cabinets here on either side of me. I do David Allen's Getting Things Done style filing. Do you know David Allen? He wrote a book called Getting Things Done.
Familiar, but I haven't read the book.
Yeah, I got it in like 2011. I tried really, really hard, but it's a pretty intense system. But I love the filing system. Just one pure alphabetical filing system, so that if you ever lose anything, there's you can look under the name of the company or the name of the contact. It's pretty easy to find. You're not going to have like multiple. I don't do separate filing systems for separate businesses even. I put like WCR to alphabetize everything that's for the ranch. It's Walking Ranch. And then like for my kids, each of their special needs filings, I put TA for Tallulah and MA for Miffy, so that all of their medical and financial stuff's together. But basically I just have one filing system. So I start at A, I go through Z, I shred everything I can shred, and it's so much fun. It feels really good. And then I take it out. Or some years if it's way too much, I just take it to Office Max and they shred it for me.
And other than, being fun, what's the advantage of just getting rid of everything at the end of the year?
I kind of like looking through what's happened this year too. I feel like a bit of closure, and I can also find some loose ends. There are often times when going through the paperwork, especially because like right now I'm looking on both sides of my desk, and because we're doing this mortgage and all that for the new investment property, I have things stacked on both sides. Like I need to getting things insured. I'm auditing all of our insurance because our regular insurance company doesn't insure rentals in Arizona. So I'm looking at switching everything because I love bundling. Bundling often saves you a lot of money. If you have your home insurance, renter's insurance, car insurance, those types of things all separate, you should call your insurance company and see if you can save money by bundling. It's kind of like bundling your internet and phone service if you have home phone service, or if your internet service offers cell phone service as well. Often those things can save you money too. But yeah, so it's kind of an audit for me at the end of the year as I shred things. I look at like, oh my gosh, did I not send that in? Sometimes there are those moments. Hopefully not. I try to keep filing to only things that I'm done with, and I have my ongoing action piles here on my sides.
So I have a question for you. So you're saying how bundling is, is good, right? It reduces clutter, it reduces your administrative chore, and you will probably get a better deal. But what is your take on sort of using? Do you bundle up personal, things that you use personally with the things that you use for business? Because I know you should keep the two spending separate.
Yeah, that's kind of a tough one because things like internet and phone, we use them. I mean, I have one cell phone and I have, our home internet service. I run my office down here. It's in our home. We do have an office out on our ranch, a headquarters, but my husband's recording studio is over in another bedroom of this house. So we have his office on one side of the house, mine on the other. And there are a lot of things that are used by all of us and the household as well. So if you are taking the home office deduction, there are ways to figure out that. Hang on, let me just grab this book I want to show everybody. That is a great guide for if you're a small business owner and you're looking at taking lots of small business deductions. I totally recommend this book.
Cool.
This is the 2015 version of it. They update it regularly. So you can potentially look at, there are two ways to take the home office deduction. One is purely by square footage, $5 per square foot. That's what you get. The other way, which you should look at, which way is better for you. If you have clients actually coming to your home and visiting you in your office, you can also deduct the square footage of the pathway they take to your house and the restroom that they use. And if you do it that way, you can also look at the square footage percentage of the house and take that percentage of utilities, home insurance, cleaning, if you have the house cleaned, you can potentially deduct a percentage of that. The only thing is you cannot increase zero. So if you have a loss for the year, don't even try to do any of those things because you can't get money back for the home office deduction. But if you're making a great deal and you have a home office, that is something to look at. Definitely talk to your CPA about it. In the past, my CPA had recommended we not do the home office deduction because it's potentially a red flag for auditing, and we have a pretty complex situation. But and I also didn't have a fully dedicated office before. I've now moved into this downstairs bedroom. I have a completely dedicated office. My husband has a completely dedicated office. We've kind of changed our household around somewhat. So we are planning on taking it this year. I'll let you know how it goes.
Post it.
But it's something to think about. Yeah, that's something else to talk to your CPA about, is your situation, the type of business you have, and how much benefit you'll get out of taking like home office deductions.
So it's really a case-by-case kind of thing. Don't just jump into it thinking like, it's a good deal, I'm going to do it. But
it potentially is. I mean, if this is the only place that you do business out of, I mean, it's totally legitimate. Like I said, in the early years, if you are claiming a loss for a year or two, it doesn't do you any good. You have to be making significantly more than what you'll deduct in order to do it. But it's a good tool. Lots of people use it. You know, lots of people work from their homes now. Think of all the freelancers. So many of us work from home now.
And the equipment and all that stuff that we actually use for work. And you know, it's really hard, especially for people working from home like us. You know, the personal usage and the business usage often overlap. So I think it's definitely worth a conversation with your CPA to see what can be deducted, and make sure that it's, you know, that the spending is clear so that you don't get into trouble if anything happens.
Can I show you another favorite tool I have?
Yeah.
So this is my planner that I use. I use a 90-day planner. I get these from Savor the Success. It's called Organize Your Gorgeous Chaos Action Planner. I get the 90-day one, so I check off. I do it quarter by quarter. That's why I love these. Oh, that's your planner, Melissa. Yep, I love these planners. And after reading this, I decided to make this also into my daily tax diary. Anytime I spend something that is a deductible expense, I write it down in here along with the appointment, because obviously I'm keeping track of all of my appointments in here. So what I'll do is, the one thing I wish that I could get them to put, like, here's a notes place to put a little pouch and a ledger. That would be nice. But see, if I write down who I'm having the appointment with, I just write what we discussed, how it was business related, and the amount. And then I can better keep track of those daily business expenses, because it is hard day by day. Like, just looking back at receipts being like, okay, was that completely business? Was that trip to Office Max? Was I buying school supplies for the kids? Was I buying business stuff? You know, you have to keep it separate. Hopefully you have them on separate cards or paid for in separate ways to start out with, so they'll filter into your whatever accounting program you're using for your business. But if you just have receipts, it can get confusing too. And again, talk to your accountant about everything that you're putting. I say put on a list to deduct everything you can possibly think you might be able to deduct, and then go through it with your accountant to make sure that they're all kosher for, you know, your type of business, where you live, your state and county, all of that.
Perfect. Okay, well, we got a lot of action item going on, Jen, and that is awesome. So is there anything else that comes to mind for you that you think our viewers can benefit from taking action on?
Let's see. I think, I think the last things we hit on were just those, you know, changing your passwords, disabling one-click, putting some barriers in between you and what junk spending you know you do. Another thing that I think is good to look at for people is what time of day you do the junk spending. So if you're going through your credit card bill to see what you consider junk, you know, mark it and look at it. How do you buy those? Like, do you actually whip your credit card out and buy it in a store? If you do, you could even take a tiny Post-it like this and write no junk on it. And then when you pull that credit card out, you'll be like, oh, do I really need this? You know, just be a little reminder. But if you tend to do it online, particularly if it's Amazon, like I said, disable the one-click, put in a password, you have to remind yourself. Or you could also make plans in your calendar for that time of night. Like if it's after dinner, after the kids go to bed, like plan something with your spouse. Maybe you can't go out because the kids are in bed, but you could plan a, like, I don't know, candle night drink together, nightcap, or you could watch Doctor Who, you know, go plan something on, like, something together so that you're not sitting in front of your computer scrolling through Pinterest or Amazon or, you know, wherever your weakness is. Or if it's at the grocery store, again, whatever card you use to buy those impulse buys, put a little note on it just to remind yourself, like, no more gum, no more, you know, like whatever it is you throw in your cart last minute. No more magazines. We have plenty of magazines, or whatever it is. Just try to think of how to put a barrier between yourself and that junk purchase that you do a lot.
And I want to sort of also add that to sort of like the junk spending on the business side of thing, on trainings and tools that we don't need. Because from a lot of my clients, those are the two things that they spend most money on, that they feel like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that, or that totally didn't do it for me. I noticed that a lot of that kind of spending, it's done to sort of fill an emotional void.
Yeah. Kind of like the junk food.
Like it's like when fear creeps up, right? Fear, like, oh my God, I'm not good enough. I have to take this training. I don't, especially when you have a bad day, like, people don't sign up for your program, or you see someone on Facebook that is totally, knocking it out of the ballpark, and you just have like a crappy month, and you're like, oh my God, I'm not good enough. I better do something about it. Or just that feeling of inadequacy, that feeling that you need to get more trainings to make you be good enough.
Yeah.
That's one thing that's very common. So that's one feeling. Of course, the feeling of missing out, like we all have that. And a lot of sales pages are very good at pulling that trigger. So know what your trigger is, and I think just having the mindfulness, having the awareness of say, oh, look at that. That's pulling my FOMO trigger. I'm not going to fall for it. I'm just going to go and look at my grand plan and see where this tool comes in for me.
Yeah. And another thing that I've been thinking about doing, actually the other day I wrote down all of the different courses that I have that something came up in the midst of and I didn't finish. One of them is called Finisher's Formula by Ramit Sethi, which I think is hilarious. That I would love to see a statistics on how many people finished the Finisher Formula program, because obviously the people who sign up for it know that they aren't finishing things. And that was one of my issues. I was like, I should go back and redo B School. It's a fantastic tool. It's a fantastic program. A lot of the answers I probably think I'm getting in something new are probably in one of these other programs I've already bought. So I was going to make a folder on my desktop of all the courses and then open it and have one folder where all the materials are for each of them. Of course, you can't always do that. It depends on what, program they use to feed you the information. Some of them you have to click onto the website, watch the videos, but some of them, the downloadables, I was like, I could put them in here. I could even like categorize it like tech stuff, sales pages. Because I mean, honestly, sales, I think for a lot of us who've never been straight up salespeople in a job, doing sales online, it is tough. Tackling the language, figuring out how to do it without sounding like some car salesman. Nobody wants to sound like a car salesman, but all of us want to reach the people who would find our stuff useful and find ways to sell to them. I mean, that's the point of being in business. If you're not selling, you don't have a business. So I've bought a number of different things to help with sales emails, sales pages, sales stuff. I don't need to buy anymore. I have plenty. That kind of feeling.
It's a really good point, because that actually you can sort of recover a lot of money if you just take a step back and ask the question. And actually, if that's okay, I want to share an article that I wrote on. I titled "How I Recovered $6,591 from my hard drive."
Oh yeah,
and
I want to hear about that. That sounds great.
It's like, the gist of it is I took a step back and say, okay, all these trainings and programs and whatnot that we're spending money on, but what is really useful and helpful for us is really take a step back and say, where I am at my business, what I need in my business, and then with that framework, you plug the training you need back into that framework. Yeah. And then you take this and look at what you have on your hard drive.
Yeah.
And pick out the ones that is truly useful. And then, but with this big picture in mind, you actually approach the training and program and material from a very different perspective. Is to make the material work for you, not you working for the materials and implementing without knowing where it is taking you.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That's fantastic.
And that actually keeps you busy. It's like, oh my God, I didn't know I have this training from, a year ago. Then I don't have to buy this other one because it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think it is a good point too. I mean, I've seen other people say this, that really, there isn't very much brand new knowledge. There is some because we're having, inventions happen, apps. I mean, you foresaw things like Blab. I did not foresee Blab. Blab is awesome. There are new platforms and new ways of doing things. But most people and courses are selling their take on it. You know what I mean? Like, you may really like and it's true. Sometimes I've bought things because I totally just, this person makes so much sense to me, and I see myself in them in some way, and I want to do what they've done to get where they want to go, or something like that, because it makes more sense to me. Particularly with very emotional things like diet and money. Like, let's be honest, there have been so many books written about what to eat and how to spend your money and make it work. But the language and connecting with people, and I mean, like, one thing I've learned about a lot of women is they don't like some dude in a suit telling them what to do with their money and shaming them for credit card debt. Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
They want someone to talk to them about why, the emotional spending, the emotional eating, you know, like, why is it different? Why does it feel different for us than for men? Of course, like, the entire culture focuses on selling us stuff in a way totally different to men. I mean, we're so enculturated to be consumers and to buy things. Everyone thinks the women buy the household products, buy the clothes, buy the, you know, all this stuff. So it's all focused on us in a very unfair way relative to how it's focused on men. It's like we're almost forced to buy things. The media is constantly trying to sell us stuff in ways that make us feel like we aren't good enough if we don't buy it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things with, like, looking at how to write sales pages and stuff. I absolutely never want to do any of that stuff. I never want to make women feel like they can't do it on their own or they're not good enough. I just want to say, like, you know, if you need some help, if you need some support, I think often what we need is some girlfriends and support and some accountability and some groups, you know, to, like, make us feel good enough without having to do these other things.
Yeah.
You were saying about the programs, like, I totally need to check out your stuff more, because as you were saying that, I was like, oh my God, I have so many programs on my hard drive. I really need to go do this.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the stuff that you have on your hard drive and you really take a good look at where you're going and how to plug them back in, a lot of times you can just approach them with a fresh perspective rather than spending more money to, you know, to get more of the same thing pumped into your brain.
Yeah. Do you know Bushra Azhar, who does the Persuasion Revolution and the Persuasion Hackers group?
He sounds familiar. I can't put my finger
out, because she's someone
I have read so many things. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I know. But one thing I love about her, so she and I did Zero to Launch for Meet Satie's Zero to Launch together. Another program with tons of great stuff that I did build a business while I was doing it, and it was good. I've abandoned it since, but it's a good program. I need to go back through that one too. But she followed it to the T, which I did not. And she has made some really amazing things out of it. And one thing I love about her is she had a laptop with a broken screen for ages, and she was doing her webinars on it. She does not have an assistant. She does not pay anyone for anything. Her stuff is aesthetically, she's like, who cares? She's all about the language of persuasion. It does not look beautiful, which is fine. That's not her thing. She's not a graphic designer. And I'm so impressed by her sometimes, because I feel like she somehow manages to resist a lot of this, like, I have to have it on Infusionsoft, and I have to have a graphic designer design it, and I have to do all these things. Like, I think she just finally got some photos taken recently. Most of her photos have always been selfies of her doing funny things, like funny faces and stuff.
That's my friend.
Yeah, she's fantastic. I really love her. And you know, she has a full-time job, and she does this Persuasion Hackers thing on the side. And her group membership program brings in over $12,000 a month. Like, she was in Business Inc. or Business Insider, or one of those. I read the article on her, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she's built this into something so fantastic with so few tools and such minimal investment.
Yeah,
time. She invests a ton of time. She does amazing webinars all the time. And she's in Saudi Arabia, so I'm amazed how she adjusts the time to be reasonable for us in the US, you know, like, yeah.
And I think really that's a good example of, you know, really focusing on message and focusing on the communication, focusing on your personal brand, rather than saying, you know, everybody has this, I gotta have that. That's a lot of fear of missing out, of the need to conform, or the fear of being criticized. That comes up for a lot of people to say, oh, you know, everybody's using that, I have to look that way to look professional. So I want to close that with with one little story about my own website experience. Is I was redoing my website, and all the designers pitching me like, I am going to make your website look like Apple. Yeah, Apple website looks nice, but I'm not Apple. Like, why do I want to look like Apple? So, you know, not from the perspective of saving money, but I ended up doing the design myself just because I'm like, I need that to be my own brand and own expression rather than, just say I want to look like Apple because I'm not Apple.
Mm-hmm. And there are probably a lot of people saying, make me look like Apple, right?
Yeah.
So if anything, it probably would make you blend in more to look like Apple.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, do you want to blend in or where do you want to stand out?
Yeah.
Blending in or, I probably digress a little bit, but blending in is like, I think blending in is making it easy for people to use when they have sort of a user habit,
Mm-hmm.
so that they're not trying to figure out where things are when they go to your website. If it's an established sort of a convention of how you interact with a piece of online entity, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if you just try to look like something without understanding the principle behind it, you may just totally miss the mark.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can make yourself look like Apple, but your interaction doesn't actually, and it's not like the interaction that people expect, then you just completely lose them.
That's true, because that's one thing with Apple is it's clean and simple and nice, but everything works together. Like it's pretty seamless. Actually, I read a quote on someone, in the Facebook feed, someone put this quote that said, great design is obvious. Oh no, good design is obvious. Great design is transparent. You're like, you don't even notice it. And I was like, oh, that's nice. That's true. Like when it's designed in such a way that it's so easy, you don't even think about the design or who designed it or why they designed it, other than to maybe, every now and then I pick up some, I come in contact with some object and I'm like, wow, that was so thoughtful that the person designed it like this so that it is, it fits perfectly in my hand or it does something or another, those moments are kind of nice. But for the most part, it's true. You don't want to have to notice the back, you don't want to have to think about the back end of a website. Just like, oh, wow, that worked so nicely and this thing happened and it's cool.
Yeah. All right, awesome, Jen. We had a great conversation. I've been taking some notes, and I think we got a lot for people to both think about and take action on. So thank you so much for being here with me today and to share your knowledge around getting our money ducks in a row.
Thanks for having me. It was great to talk to you. I have a lot to think about in terms of my tools and auditing my hard drive now, too. I'm going to go do that, I think, with your wrap up.
Just to send folks off, I want to let us know where people can find us. Side view. Thank you.
I need my roots done right now, so that's why it's all tied back. Shauna, you probably haven't seen this before. I usually, thank you. I usually don't do much video because I tend to get them done frequently. I don't know why. It's one of my weird little things. It's not like you're showing, but it happened today, so oh well. I've been a bit busy.
Awesome. So, just to wrap this up, we'll just tell people where to find us in case they want more of what we talk about. So Jen, what is your website? And you can just type it into the comments if you want.
Sure. Okay. My website is jenturrell.com, which is just my name.com. There we go. And the way that I am mainly trying to support women getting their finances together right now is I have a group called Mastering Money Matters. And I kind of styled it on one of Bushra's offerings, which she's in Saudi Arabia now, but she's from Pakistan. And one of her points was that a lot of people in her country only make a few dollars a day. So she didn't want to be selling these $5,000 packages. So one of her programs that she did is $19 a month. And I just love that. I was like, when women are trying to get their money together, I deliver content every month. It's basically like a module every month on debt reduction or automation, or I have one called Treasure Hunt that's finding the hidden money in your world, which is some of these things we've talked about. And also things like building your financial team as an entrepreneur, things like that. So every month there's a module basically that you get, and then we have the group, and then we have a monthly call, and there's lots of interaction in the group. We all support each other and shout each other out and stuff. But I wanted to keep it really financially reasonable because a lot of us are trying to get out of debt and start building our wealth at this point in our life. So it's $19 a month to join. It's the most reasonable way to work with me. If anyone's interested, you can check it out on my website. It's right there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing. And I also want to share with folks where you can find me. So I'm laying at business-soulwork.com, and I just put in my the URL for my free gift, which is how to design your winning formula. And really, what is most pertinent to this conversation is when you create a plan that is based out of your strength and the people you want to work with. The plan can help you, it can become your filter of all these tools and programs and stuff and whatnot, so that you can really make the most out of it and not spinning your wheels or running on a hamster wheel.
Mm-hmm. That sounds awesome. I'm totally going to go check yours out. I do have a freebie on my website too. There's a hello bar at the top. If people want to go to my website, click on that. You'll get my guide to saving money and feeling wealthy.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Jen.
Good to talk to you. Bye, Ling.
Bye.